What's up, guys? I'm Rasim from RasimTech.com, and this is another tutorial in Apex programming. Now, in this class, I'm going to show you guys how to create a class, method, and object. So let's get started. Now, what is a class? Well, a class is a classification of something, right? Let's say I am human, right? I belong to the human class. Now, there are different parts to a class. There are the attributes and there is the method. Now, attributes are like characteristics. Like, let's say you could be tall, you could have dark hair, you could have blue eyes. These are attributes, right? So, and a method is an action, like a verb. Since I am an object of the human class, right? I can walk, I can talk. These are methods. These are actions. So let's get started now. So how do we create a class? We got to right click our project first up here. Right click the project, go to new, and click on Apex class. So click on that, and it should automatically load this dialog box where it'll ask you to create a class name. And I'm going to call my class name car, C-A-R, right? And click on finish. And it's going to load. Give it a second. So now it's creating this class, and it should automatically fill in our class for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this here, whatever's there, and let's type in public, P-U-B-L-I-C, void, and the name of our class, which is car, right? And hit space, open and closing curly brace, right? In between this open and closing curly brace, we're going to hit enter a few times. So now we created a class, and we called our class car here. So now that we created a class, we got to give it attributes and a method. So let's give it some attributes. So let's use a string for that. So I'm going to type in private first, P-R-I-V-A-T-E, right? So this is going to be private, and it's going to be an integer. So the first one will be an integer. So capital I-N-T-E-G-E-R, hit space. So our variable here, this is one of our attributes, right? It's private, and it's an integer data type, and we're going to call this variable car, capital M-I-L-E-S, car miles, and end it with a semicolon. Actually, let's make this equal to 0, and then end it with a semicolon. So we created one attribute, right? It's a private variable with the integer data type, and we called it car miles, and we set the value to 0. So later on, I'll show you how we can manipulate this variable. So let's give it some more attributes. Let's say, let's use string this time. So let's type in public, because I want this variable to be accessed and manipulated from anywhere. I don't want it to be private. So let's type in string, capital S-T-R, actually, let's type in string S-T-R-I-N-G, hit space. We got to give our variable a name. Let's call this one car color. And let's end it with a semicolon. We're not giving it a value yet. So let's create another attribute. It's going to be another public string. It's going to have a string data type. And let's call this one car make. And then with a semicolon, because I'm not going to give it a value right away. Notice the naming convention here. It's good practice to start off your first word of any variable you name with lowercase, then the second word, start the word with a capital. It's good practice, and it's easier to read for other programmers. So now let's create a method. Now remember, a method is an action, right? So to create a method, we're going to type in tab here. We're going to type in public, right? And we're going to type in void. We're going to type in void because our method is not going to have a return value, right? So we're going to hit space. Now we're going to give our method a name. I'm going to call my method enter miles. And we're going to use this open and close parentheses here. It's not a curly brace. These are open and close parentheses. I'm going to hit space, open and close curly brace. Now these are open and close curly brace. So in between the open and close curly brace, we're going to hit enter a few times. So now this is the body of our method here. Remember, methods are objects. So we want this method to do something, right? So in this method I want to say car miles. This is the variable car miles, right? That we created up here, and it's the integer data type. Remember, this is a private variable. We cannot directly access this variable, but we can use a method to manipulate it. And I'll show you more once we I'll talk more about that later on. So let's say car miles, our variable car miles, is equal to car miles plus miles, and with a semicolon. Now, in between this open and close parentheses, we want to give it, since it's not going to have a return value, we want to be able to still manipulate this method, right? So in here, we're going to type in integer, capital INTEGER, because we're going to give it an integer value later on. I got to give it a name, so we're going to hit space. I'm going to call this variable miles, and I added it down here. So again, this method is going to take our private integer variable car miles, which has a value of 0, right? It's going to add it to itself, then add this variable here, miles. Later on, we're going to give it value when we invoke this method, and I'll show you how that works later on. So now this is our method here. So now, how do we access this class? So let's first start off by saving. Okay, to save this, now we're going to click on this save icon here, or we can click on Control plus S. So I'm going to click on this here. It's going to save our class now. So now, how do we invoke this class? How do we access this class? And we're going to do it with execute anonymous. So double click on execute anonymous over here. Now we're going to create an object that will have direct access to our class, and it'll have access to the attributes and the method. This is called instantiate. So we got to type in our class name, which is car. We have to hit space. Now we're going to give our object, our new object, a name. So I'm going to call this car, capital TYPE, car type. I'm going to hit space. I want to make this equal to new, and then our class name again, car, open and close parentheses, and then with a semicolon. Again, we're instantiating our object to our class, which means that this object that we just created right here, it's going to have direct access to our class that we call car, and it's going to have access to all the attributes and to the methods. So we can use this object to manipulate all that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to manipulate our attributes, right? Remember, we created a couple attributes. The first attribute was car miles. The second was car color, and the third was car make, right? So let's start off with car color, right? Let's give a value to car color, which was a string. So we got to use our object name first. So we're going to type in car, capital TYPE, our attribute name, which was car color, right? So CAR, capital COLOR, and we're going to set this equal to, let's say, a string. So we got to use two single quotes. In between these two single quotes, I'm going to type in green. So what we did is we use our object because it's instantiated. It has direct access to our car class, which has all the attributes and it has the method. And one of our attributes was car color. Remember, this was a string, and we set this equal to nothing. So now we're using our object so we can give this attribute a value, and it has a value of green. So now let's do the same thing with our other attribute. Our other attribute was car make, right? Remember that? So let's type in CARTYPE. This is our object again because it's instantiated with our class. So let's type in dot, our attribute name. Our attribute name was car make. And let's make this equal to another string. So I need another set of single quotes, right? In between this set of single quotes, I'm going to give it a make. Let's make this one a Pontiac, right? And I forgot something. After every statement, you should always have a semicolon. These two are statements. Every statement has to have a semicolon. We're giving value to something that is a statement. Now let's invoke our method. Remember, our car type here, our object car type, has direct access to our class, which has all the objects and methods, remember? So we're going to say car type dot, our method name was enter miles, right? Open and close parentheses, and then with a semicolon, now we got to give it a value. Remember, now in our method, enter miles, we said car miles equals car miles plus miles. So miles is what we're going to enter. Since it was a void, where it's not going to return a data type, we can give it value. So in between this open and close parentheses here, I'm going to give it a value. So let's type in 500. So now we gave our car miles a value of 500. So now what we're going to do is we're going to print out the object itself, including all the attributes. So we're going to use the system dot debug, open and close parentheses, and then a semicolon. We're going to type in our object name, which is car type. Remember, our object name has access to all the attributes, so it's going to print out all the attributes. So let's hit execute anonymous down here. Let's click on that, let it run. Right down here, I got an error message. So let's double click on execute anonymous to go back to our code here. This is our class. And as you can see, I have some red squiggly lines, and I know what happened. This should be public class car, not public void car. So replace the void with class. Class is the keyword, so that's why it didn't work. So public class, then the car name, or public class and then the class name here. Class is the keyword. So let's hit save. So now let's open up execute anonymous again here. All right, so before we hit execute anonymous, make sure your log level is to the highest. So then click on execute anonymous, and you're gonna want to, when your mouse here, when you see the double arrow, click on it, then it's an invisible line. You could pull it up to expand the debug log here. So you're gonna look for user debug, anything that says user debug. So go down so you see user debug. And this is the line here. So it basically printed out our entire object. It first printed out car color equals green, car make equals Pontiac, and car miles equals 500. Pretty cool, right? Alright, so that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys like this video, please give me a like. If you want more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. I'm Rasim from RasimTech.com, and thanks for watching.